There are researches that show that kids develop their first money habits before the age of 7. You can think like 7, this is the age kids normally go to school. This is where they learn numbers, where they learn how to calculate. But it starts much earlier. It starts with the age of 3 already, because this is the age when they see the habits of their parents, how they spend the money, how they deal with it, and they copy everything. And they don't understand these values in general yet, like how much is how much money is 10 euro, how much is 20 euro, but they see like the patterns. And when you start early enough, this is the key to success.
Welcome to Investing Insights, where we chat with experts from various industries to uncover investing lessons that empower everyday people like you. Today, we're diving into the world of financial education for children with Tetyana Kohansal, an actuary and passionate advocate for early money investments. Before we jump in, a quick intro to Tetyana. She's the founder of KS Actuaries, where she specializes in actuarial consulting, risk management, and financial strategies for businesses. With a strong background in finance, Tetyana has expanded her expertise into education, co-hosting webinars like Teens, Money, and Mindset, and delivering a TEDx talk on why kids need to learn about money before they can count. She's also helping families build investing habits and teach essential money skills to children. And she co-wrote the children's book Geheimnis der Goldmünzen, The Secret of the Gold Coins, a story aimed at sparking financial curiosity in young readers together with her husband, Kamlis. This podcast episode is for financial education purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Always consult a qualified professional for personalized guidance. Hello, thank you
Hi.
for joining today, Tetyana. It's really amazing to have you here in our podcast session, and I'm super excited to be talking to you today because I want to learn more about what you do, and especially let's dive straight in. And can you please explain me what you do as a co-founder of KS Actuary, and maybe explain us and the listeners what an actuary actually does?
First of all, thank you, Georg, for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here and share my experience with the audience. Exactly. So everyone is normally asking me, what is an actuary? Because this is a strange word that normally like 99% of people don't know. Actuary is basically someone who is evaluating risks that are connected to finance and insurance. So I see myself as a mathematician because this is what I studied. And an actuary is a combination of mathematics, a bit of finance, a bit of programming, a bit of also talking to people and explaining what is a risk. So what we do is we take probabilities of some events that could happen to companies, contracts, anything connected to like uncertainties. And we put it into numbers and we make sure that companies or insurance companies or whoever it is have enough capital to protect themselves from these risks if they happen. So we calculate these probabilities and they tell them how much money they need to be protected. That's what an actuary is. And at KS Actuaries, we are a team of mathematicians, basically, who work with numbers, probabilities, a bit of programming, and we also put it into explanation. So we make sure that companies who implement our models, implement these probabilities, they understand what they are doing. So we put numbers into models that are used by companies to make it like a framework for them. Exactly.
Super exciting. What type of companies do you serve then? Is it like insurances, banks?
Yes, mostly insurance companies because we work a lot with life probabilities and non-life probabilities. What is this? For example, a company has insurance contract for someone and they want to make sure that this person lives long enough. We work with these life tables, or nothing happens to this person. So we also protect them from any kind of diseases or something unexpected that could happen to a person. But also non-life risk are any kind of event that happens to your apartment, car, your company. There are also dread diseases, catastrophes, whatever you can think of. We work with these kind of risks, and this is mostly covered by insurance company, but also in banks. We do a bit of evaluation of assets that a bank has. So this is connected to market risk. So what's happening on the market, what fluctuations are there right now, also economic risk, political risk, macroeconomic risk that can influence this asset that the bank has. But also like normal companies, corporates, or also public companies that have anything in their company that could be at risk. Anything could happen to people who work in this company or to any kind of assets they have.
That's really great because you're really assessing the risk, which is actually every person should also understand when they start to invest, because it's always a very individual situation. Then how do you implement this for your own investment, personal strategies, personal finances? Are you like always thinking about like analyzing the risk first for yourself?
Yes, because of my background and this mathematical kind of thinking, I always think about normal things in life also in this framework, and I try to put everything in this risk category, even if it's not like even if a normal piece for a person would never think about it. So in terms of investment, of course, anyone who starts investing has to be sure about risk return profile, and many people underestimate this part of investment because they think they will start with a huge sum of money and will do something risky. But then when something happens on the market, they panic, or vice versa. They start with a minimum risk and then they suffer that they don't have enough profit or not enough return from this investment. So before doing any kind of investment, you have to be sure what your risk return profile is. And for me, it's been different in different stages of life. There were stages when I was all in, going into very risky assets. And there were stages when I didn't want to put any money at risk. So it very much depends on the situation of the market, on your personal situation. And I always keep that in mind, of course. So for now, I have different asset classes. I have a diversified portfolio, but depending on which year I'm investing, on what's the situation on the market, I'm also choosing the asset classes I invest in from this framework.
Yeah, that's great because it serves like your compass, and then you should also consider the time horizon, right? Because sometimes you need money more short term and then long term, and then you can
Exactly.
match the risk with the timeline. Um, how was it for you? Like, because you entered this space, I assume mostly in Austria, but you are not from Austria originally. So how was it for you? Like entering this very specific and special industry, learning all the legal implications, learning German to develop this right data and products then for your companies. How was that journey? How challenging was it?
So I originally come from Ukraine, and before I moved to Austria when I was 17, I also lived 1 year in the United States when I was a teenager. And this also like changed my perspective of how I see myself in the future, because in the States I was very much into finance, and that was the starting point of my journey. There were like business classes at school, conversations about investments. In Ukraine back then, we didn't have that. And that's when I decided I want to go in this direction. So at 17, I moved to Austria to study here. I studied mathematics, and then I moved a bit into this finance area and did quantitative finance. Um, so basically, all my journey was starting from here. So I didn't have any background on finance back in Ukraine. That's why it was very easy, I would say. And the educational programs here in Austria are really, really well structured. They give you all the necessary skills that you can implement future in your job. And it was in a very international program here. We talked to a lot of people coming from different countries. We had a lot of lecturers from all over the world. So we had this kind of experience coming from everywhere. And I think this helped me also to build my own company based not only on what is working in Austria, but also what is working in other countries.
Yeah, I saw on your website, and your team is all female and female led, and of course the whole team are women, which is, I think, super cool. What can we learn from how you lead the team, how you work on a daily basis? How's the team spirit? Is there something, yeah, we can follow, or you can give us a guidance, a tip? And as well as every one of you is familiar and experts on topics about the risk assessments and financial markets as such, is investment a topic as it that you also discuss in a team?
Yeah, we are a team of 5 females, and it was not like we wanted to exclude men. It just happened accidentally, I would say. So last time when we were looking for a new team member, we had many applications, but somehow we sympathized with one of the women, so we chose her. But it's also like I see it as my personal goal to support women who want to work in finance, and because as a young woman myself, I found it hard back then when I was starting my journey to position myself in this field. So I also want to give opportunities to young women who want to join our team or who are looking for any kind of advice. And I'm here and ready to help. And in our team, we also have different backgrounds. We have a girl coming from Brazil, and also different age segments. So my partner, for example, my business partner, she is older. She has another like perspective, another experience, and like a combination of all these things in the team and different backgrounds, different origins, I think is an advantage. And this is also my message to people who work not only in finance, but in general in teams, is to have as much diversity as possible, because I think this is one of the keys to success, to be a successful team, because different perspectives normally open a lot of thoughts and perspectives on how you can solve any kind of problem.
Yeah, super cool. I agree on that part about the diversity, yeah, for ages as well, because it really gives you, on the one hand, the experience, but then maybe a different thought about it if you have younger people on the team. And speaking about younger people, you're following one of your passions and implementing a side business and a new project, which is financial education for children. Could you explain us a bit why you started that and how's that journey evolving?
Yeah, it also happened a bit of like it was a bit accidentally, but I would say also like a bit of destiny, because I always wanted to inspire young people, and I saw it as my mission to help not only like females to find themselves in finance, but also any young people who want to go this path. And I remember myself when I was like 15, 14, and in the United States, this was the first time I've learned about investments and how to buy a stock or things like that. And unfortunately, in schools, especially in Europe, people don't learn that. If they are lucky, if young people are lucky enough and their parents explain it to them and show how it works, this is perfect. But not all families are like that. And not all schools teach about these things. I saw it as my personal mission to help young adults and also even small children to understand these concepts as early as possible. So, like last year, I got a baby. When my son was born, it was a bit of also inspiration, because I started like reading a lot of children's books. I've read a lot of literature on how to educate children, and I saw that this concept is always missing at explaining how money works to kids. We talk about how to calculate, how to have different hobbies, how to behave yourself, but not about how you can actually manage money and be successful with that. This is a missing part in our educational system. So my son was also an inspiration to write a children's book on financial literacy, a book for kids between ages of 3 to 8, I would say, like really small children, where parents are also involved because they are the first example to these kids who try to learn these concepts. So they read together this book, and it's not about like a story itself. It's about opening up conversations between parents and kids, because this book has reflection questions after each chapter. So the main point is to trigger this conversation, start to this conversation, how they understand this concept, how money works, how would you do this, how would you do that. And parents are involved explaining this concept to children, because children copy everything we tell them, and they copy our behavior. And everything started from the book, but now it's getting bigger. We are also targeting teenagers, as I said, because I can reflect to myself when I was 14, 15, how I started learning about investments, about businesses, startups, and things like that. So we do also workshops, a lot of educational programs, and like online course right now for teenagers specifically, who are on this road to become young adults soon and start their careers, go to university maybe. And before they do this, before they go to this adult life, they already have these concepts in their mind on how everything's working and are well prepared to that.
I see you that's this entrepreneur spirit that you have. You see something like a need, and you have this idea, and then you just cannot stop it. You have to go ahead, create something. And yeah, it's beautiful that you even create something physical like a book. And I think you also it serves as also like the Trojan horse to bring parents onto this topic as well, not just the children, right? So to let parents also wake up and say like, hey, let's talk more about finance, especially with my children. Is that something in your upbringing, like thinking back before you even went to the US, was finance investing a topic for you in Ukraine as well? Or is it
Mhm.
something that just started in your teenage years when you had this more
Mhm, mhm.
US American environment?
No, unfortunately not. And this is also one of the reasons why I'm so much talking about this, because my family never talked to me about money. There were some moments, but basically I didn't know how much they're earning. They didn't talk to me about how to earn your first money, how to manage money, how to budget. I grew up in 90s, in the 90s. In the 90s in Ukraine, back then was a difficult time, especially for young families. And in general, in this culture, it was not like a common thing after the fall of the USSR that people openly talk about their money, how much they earn, and stuff like this. And the school was also very, very silent about this. So my first experience basically was when I went abroad and I saw how different that works in other countries. And I wanted for young people who are even below these teenage ages also to be able to talk about this to their parents, to learn this concept as early as possible. Because there are researches that show that kids develop their first money habits before the age of 7. You can think like 7, this is the age kids normally go to school. This is where they learn numbers, where they learn how to calculate. But it starts much earlier. It starts with the age of 3 already, because this is the age when they see the habits of their parents, how they spend the money, how they deal with it, and they copy everything. And they don't understand these values in general yet, like how much is how much money is 10 euro, how much is 20 euro, but they see like the patterns. And when you start early enough, this is the key to success before they go to school and really understand the algebra behind this.
So, what would you give us if you can give a parent, like let's say, 3 tips for children between up to 7 years old? What can they implement immediately, or some advice that you give of like do's or maybe even don'ts?
So I actually, a lot of parents come to me and ask, what can I do with my child at this age, at this age? So we develop like a guide that opens up conversations in families for different ages. And there are different stages of development in kids, and different topics can be interesting at different stages. For example, for kids between age 5, 6, I would say, they cannot like add numbers. Yeah, they cannot multiply numbers. Yeah, they don't understand what compound interest is, but they understand the values. So this is the first step when you have to explain to children that the parents go to work or they have their businesses, to explain that they earn the money, that they cannot have everything they want right now, that this category of things are wants and this category of things are wants. So if kids want something immediately, they have to wait and to differentiate between needs and wants. Also, this is the first starting point when you can introduce like a savings jar to your kids. You can put the coins in there. They see like materialistic things. They can touch it. They can think, okay, the jar is full. This is a lot. The jar is half full. I still have some time. So some more effort. I have to put some more effort to make it full. So they understand the concepts in shape and form and touch. Exactly. And after like the age of 5, 6, you can also, when they go to school, they understand algebra also. They can add numbers. They understand how much is $5, how much is $10. There you can introduce things like budgeting, allowance, like money management, also shopping. If you go to the supermarket with your kids, for example, you give them some amount of money and tell them you have to choose something you want for that budget. You can let them compare the prices so they understand which product is more cheaper and which one is more expensive and which more has more quality, for example, so they don't spend all the money on snacks, on unnecessary things. And also goal setting. This is the first stage when they also already have their desires. They can make a goal and start saving for it. And then after age of 10, I would say, now when they enter these teenage years, it's becoming more interesting because you can introduce the concept of banking, earning, budgeting, explain compound interest, credit, business ideas, and all of that things that kids normally don't learn at school. And some adults don't even understand to the age of 30, 40. So these are all the like tools that adults or parents can use to introduce this concept to their kids. But the most important is like 3 things, and I call them the 3 E's: experience, earn, and explain. Let your kids experience different of kind of things. Let them make mistakes. Let them have their own money and try things out. Then earn. Of course, not everyone is like a business person in their spirit, but let your kids also come up with some ideas and try things like sell something, do some mini business. Let them, like, I don't know, if you want to give them allowance for making chores or something like that. I don't think it's a very good concept, but let them try this just to have the idea what is it to earn money. And the third one is explain. This is number one and key topic to everything is talking to your kids about money in general, like at the dinner table, at the supermarket, in any life scenario where money is involved. You have to explain what are you doing with money. And most kids don't know how much their parents earn or how much the rent costs or how much the food costs that they buy every week at the supermarket. And this is bad. This is bad. I think that everyone has to talk about this, that kids also understand how much parents are spending, how much savings they have and stuff like this.
Yeah, wow. You really thought it through because as a parent, there's so many topics in education you have to cover and you want to do right. And of course, everybody has a different upbringing. And if someone maybe doesn't come from a family, from a business background, or maybe there are some really inherent thoughts about like money doesn't grow on the trees, or financial markets are bad, or there are too many billionaires in the world. Sometimes maybe as a parent, you kind of transfer these thoughts on your children unconsciously, or you're blocking them in their own entrepreneurial or financial development. I saw last weekend you done at a workshop with your husband Kambis. And I think it goes actually also beyond a bit the money topic, also about like igniting this spirit of developing business ideas, or maybe even the approach of that trying something and maybe failure is not inherently bad, that there's something about like develop really your ideas into businesses. Maybe you can touch a bit about on this topic as well, and how this workshop looks like, what can parents or children learn there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but before I explain about the workshop, you mentioned this mindset of parents, that not all parents are entrepreneurs and have their businesses. We have like a series of reels or TikToks that we do. It's called Rich Kids versus Poor Kids, and it's not about money, or it's not about how much their families are making. It's about the mindset, and we explain in these videos that even if you are low on the budget as a family, you can raise up rich kids, because the mindset is the key. And you don't have to be jealous about people who have more money. You have to learn from these people. This is the concept of these explanational videos. But yeah, last week we also did a workshop on this entrepreneurial topic, where at the beginning we explained like things, budgeting, investing, saving for a goal. It was very interactive, where kids like have their worksheets and fill them up, and work in groups, and it was very gamified. But in the end, we wanted them to also get into this entrepreneurial world a little bit, and they had to create their own business ideas in groups. And it was very interesting how different kind of groups and different kind of ages were able to create different ideas that adults would never probably come up with, and how creative they can be by pitching these ideas to others. Because as I said, like the key to success in some companies groups is a teamwork and the diversity in the group. Even as a solo person, you would never come up with any kind of cool idea for a business. As a group, it can be very creative. And it was funny to see these backgrounds of children and how they understand these numbers, because we gave them an exercise to write down some kind of a goal they would love to reach, something they would like to have in the future. And one girl said that she wants a new iPhone, and by Christmas, it's like in 2 months, right? Even less, in 1.5 months. And I was like, do you know how much an iPhone costs? And she was like, no. And I said, nowadays it costs like 1,000 euros already. And do you already have enough money? And she was like, no. I was like, will you be able to save this money until Christmas? She was like, no. And there was one girl, she said she wants a villa in Spain. And I was like, do you know how much villa in Spain costs? She was like, yeah, 3 million. I was like, yeah, maybe. And when do you want to have it? And she said, in 30 years. And she introduced us like a real plan, how she gonna make this money. She told us about she is investing in gold and stuff like this. So I think this second girl was more realistic with her goal than the first one with an iPhone idea until Christmas. So it's about like understanding concepts, how much you need, how is your budget looking now, what are you going to do with this money to reach this goal. And you can see this kind of like perspectives from different children, and our goal is to make them all understand how to reach these goals.
Yeah, very interesting, because you bring them this realistic approach of bringing down, okay, what's your target? What's your timeline? And the example of a villa in 30 years is very specific already. How old were those children?
Like the 10 to 14. So I think in 30 years, if she's now investing in gold, it's more realistic than an iPhone until Christmas now.
And I assume the parents are supporting then, because, of course, if you're a kid, you cannot officially invest, so you need your parents to do that. I remember when I was like 13 or such, I was a big football soccer fan, so I was like, I asked my grandma for my birthday to buy some Manchester United stock, because I wanted to own a piece of the company, so of the football club, which was more of an emotional thing, but that was my first experience with that. So it's really good that children early on get a feel for those investments, different assets as well, so they You don't feel afraid at a later stage. How do you see fear as something that blocks people? Because there is this strategic part about like assessing risk, but sometimes they're really emotional blockages. You can read all the books and pay the best experts. If you have this inherent feeling of like, I'm afraid to lose money or I'm afraid to do a mistake, how do you see that? Is that something recurring topic for you in your workshops, in your interactions?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest block for a lot of people because in our society nowadays, unfortunately, also with the rise of AI and stuff like automatization, digitalization, people want to have things fast and they think they can get rich very fast. So if they invest their money, they want the return right now. And they forgot about things like long strategy or long-term investments. And when we talk about fear, this is why people get also emotional when something bad is happening because they react immediately and they don't think in this like years strategies. Because if you do that, the fear is becoming like a normal daily thing that you deal with as I don't know, like as everyday breakfast or something, because fear, like something, when something bad is happening right now, you know that the market is working in cycles and it will get better. So if you just survive this moment when things get worse, you will be in general, like on average, in a good shape. And the even bigger fear that people have is the fear of missing out. This also has to deal with this digitalization and quick rewards for society because they see people like jumping on some next big thing, the next AI company that is popping up. They want to invest in new startup, new crypto coin or whatever. And they see people like doing things and they feel this fear that they are not involved and they want to jump on that train as well. But this is also bad because it's like just jumping around things without a strategy. So as an actuary myself, the first advice I give to people is to think long term and in strategy. So define your risk return profile at the beginning, define your timeline at the beginning, define what goal you want to achieve at the beginning so that the fear of missing out and the fear that something bad is happening will not hit you that hard.
Yeah, it makes actually sense as well because if you enter this financial world, you have to learn some terminologies, some strategies. If you first define a long-term goal and you dip your toes in investing there, then you can maybe increase your level of risk if you say, okay, now I want to add a more risky asset because I need a bit of higher return, or I have another investment goal which is more short term. Let's say I need a house or I want to buy a car within next 3 or 5 years. Um, then maybe yeah, you need to take a bit more risk. But I see it as well. Of course, some people just listen to their friends and say, now you have to buy exactly this crypto coin because it will go up. And if something goes bad there, like this bad situation can maybe stop you from really taking this next step. Is there something in your life, can be financially, but also in another area, something where you could say like how failure has maybe set you up for later success, or something that you've done wrong that later helped you really to shape your mindset, move forward?
Hmm. Yeah, of course. I started investing like when I was very young, during my university years, since I was like, since I could legally invest. And there were like lots of failures on my journey. I remember one of the worst things that happened was 5 years ago when the COVID started and the markets went down more than 20%, March 2020, I think. And I was working at this research institute, and we had to develop different investment strategies with real money portfolios. And we worked in teams, but we had like 1 million euros assets under management. And the COVID was starting already, but the market didn't hit yet. And we had to decide what we do with this portfolio now. And I remember it was very, very hard to evaluate because there were, of course, pandemics earlier in the history. but it was like still a new thing in this 2000 era, and we didn't know what's going to happen, how long it will last. So we have to reevaluate our portfolio, optimize it a bit. And I remember this when the market really hit, and this day when it was like minus 20%, even more than almost minus 30. And like everyone was panicking, even though we are all mathematicians, we are working with risk every day. And then in 2 months, eventually it all went up again. And in summer 2020, it was even in plus. We did profit, but I remember how stressful it was that we had this portfolio, even though it was not like our money, but we were like experts in this field, but we couldn't like really perfectly manage it. And I think this is a situation which I learned from also for myself, for the future, that you just have to wait some time. Sometimes, as I said, that the crises and market fall downs happen, and the market works in cycles. So if you are strong enough to survive this cycle and maybe invest when the market goes down and add something to your portfolio, you will eventually win.
Yeah. Very different approach, of course, when you have to deal with other people's money. I mean, even though you know and you trust in that, maybe your clients even expect you to have every year a certain return, even though there's a long-term strategy in place. So I think that shows as well why if somebody invests for them personally, for their personal investment portfolio, it doesn't always help to look at what a big famous investment broker or a company really does or what's their investment strategy. So what Warren Buffett does doesn't mean that I need to do the same because it's completely different setup and it's very personal how someone can go through those downs and how much risk they can accept. So is there any new belief or behavior or habit in the last 4 years that has improved your life? Let's say some life hack from you that you can give to parents, children, or anyone who wants to invest.
I is because maybe of my background and this mathematical thinking all the time, I like to track a lot of things. And I don't talk about numbers here. I also track about habits. So I normally, when I'm setting a goal or doing something, I create like mini lists or mini checkups, or even when I'm just working and something comes to my mind and I just write everything down. And because AI now is very, very like a thing that is very much in our lives, I let AI analyze these thoughts, these trackings, and this also helps me to come up with some ideas to see, to reflect on myself, where my thoughts are right now. Am I doing the right thing? It's not like AI. I give AI these things for coaching, but sometimes we forget to reflect on ourselves. Now, where are we right now on our way in career or in family or just in daily life? And analyzing these things can help us maybe restructure some processes or see, are we in a good mind right now, in a good shape of mind right now, in a healthy relationship with ourselves, these kind of things.
Super nice, really good approach. Yeah, because progress happens on a daily and recurring basis, like weekly tasks.
And we also forget to thank ourselves for these like small moments. We see it as a granted if we achieve something or reach something, but we forget to analyze this journey. So for me, the way and the journey is more important than the goal itself.
Yeah, I like to, in my sense, when I have to accomplish things, I try to define this one thing I need to accomplish today. So we prioritize as well what's the most important, and then it feels like I did this important contract that I had to review, and then everything else I do, which are a lot of other things, they just feel like okay, an additional. So I kind of celebrate every day. I did this more difficult task already at 8 a.m. in the morning, and then everything else is like on top. It's like a small hack that helps me to move forward with tasks. What would you consider one of the best investments you've made in your life?
Mhm. I think the best investment I made was not materialistic. It was an investment in my education. So the journey that I'm went through learning different things, my university years, also some extracurricular education that I had. In the end, it paid off in terms of what I'm doing right now, not only with my business, but also like with my family. That everything that I learned, I also want to give back to my son or maybe other children that I will have in the future, but also people who we support, like startups that come to me for some advice where I invest my money and my time in young teenagers, young kids, and families who come for advice or who read our book, who go through our online course. So I want to give everything I've learned that I invested in my education back. This is how I define like a return on investment that I made in terms of education. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, if you could give any advice to a young person, let's say leaving school or university and entering the real world of like taking the first career steps, what advice would you give them that you maybe for you is like the most pressing one? I say, okay, in
Mhm.
our dynamic 21st century, what should they prioritize?
I think the advice number one I would give to young children, young adults right now is not to focus on money, not focus on earn, but to focus on learn. Because as I said, the best investment was investing in my education. And a lot of people think like short term, I want to have money now, I want to be successful now. But investing in education and what you experience is long term, and you will see the profits later. And this is much better. It pays much better than these short term goals. And also, teenagers, they come up with these business ideas sometime, and they want to become millionaires. They see these YouTubers, these influencers who make money on their channels and become popular, and like they do this not standard jobs that our parents used to do, and they want to be like that successful as well now. But the key to this success is experiencing things, trying out. And a lot of teenagers, when they come up with these ideas, most of them fail because it's just the way of error and trial. You have to go through many things, experience them until you have your perfect strategy that will work out. And this is this investment in learning process in education. And we, with my husband, invest in different startups, and we see these journeys and how startups go up and down, up and down. And the experience is the most important. And in the United States, for example, there's this culture that people fail a lot and it's seen normal because after you go through a couple of fails, you will have more experience. You're more predetermined for success. In Europe, unfortunately, it's not that way yet. But what we want to say is that we want to change that. We want people to understand that they have to go through these unsuccessful situations until they get this point of life where they receive their profits back.
Yeah. Great. So lifelong learning for later than lifelong earning. I like it.
Exactly.
Finally, who should we invite next to a podcast? Who's a really interesting person to be talking to?
It depends on what topic you want exactly to highlight. If you want to go more into this entrepreneurial framework and startups and investments in private equity in something that is not very traditional and risky, you can invite my husband, Kambis, because he's a very kind of a startup expert and was founder himself. But also, I want to recommend you inviting someone coming from a different background, like investments in real estate. I have a good friend, Tom Urbanek, who is a specialist in this. Um, yeah, you can tell me what topic exactly you want to highlight, and I can come up with an idea of next podcast guest.
Thank you. Yeah, that's actually the idea, that we can do a bit of a deep dive and invite experts from certain industries, and yeah, inspire people as well to think about, maybe real estate is really on my list and I need some experts to help me achieving that. So yeah, thank you for those insights, and especially thank you for all your expertise. I see you have a lot of interesting projects and material coming up, from writing a next book, doing more workshops. It will be a big pleasure as well sharing that. So if you share some of those resources with us, we will link it in the conversation in the podcast description below, so people can access it. And of course, as well, your social media, so people can follow you. And yeah, I want to thank you so much, Tetyana. That was, I personally learned a lot myself, and it's just beautiful to see that you have this genuine motivation to help people on different fronts, like parents, children, and also in the more professional space and in businesses. So yeah, please keep up this amazing spirit, and so many people can benefit from your knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Georg, for inviting, and I hope I could inspire some of your and our guests, and good luck with your investment journey.
Hey listeners, if this episode has sparked your interest for investing, click below. You can access our free online course, Investing Essentials, to learn the basics of investing, to develop your personal investment strategy, and dip your toes into this new financial world. We are here to support, help, and are super excited to have you on this journey. Remember, everything you've heard is financial education, not financial advice. Consult a professional if you need support. Tune in next for more insights. Keep learning with investing.